Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
A very good afternoon to respected sir and all my fellow mates who are present over here. Myself, Vedika Jaiswal, and I welcome you all on behalf of Dia Delhi in our today's economics class by our most respected sir, Madhusudan Sharma sir. So before proceeding, I would like to say something that it's not merely hard work, but smart work that gets us there. It's not about looking at others, but about looking at oneself that brings us excellence. Thank you. Now over to you, sir.
Okay, so thank you very much, Vedika, for those very good quotation that we have shared with all of us. I guess audio, video, everything is clear. First, just confirm all of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you. A very good afternoon to all of you. Most of you must be aware because it is my second lecture with you people. Myself, Madhusudan Sarma. Rest of the description is written on the board. We have given or rather taken some assignment for ourselves. Have you done it? Yes. Did you practice the basic numeracy percentage things that we have told you? Yeah. So I believe now that you are in the rhythm now. So if I talk about some percentage, you will be able to very easily calculate them. It is not necessary that if I have told you in the last class, I will be using those percentage things in this class. Video not clear. Few people are saying, is it the case that there is some problem with the video? नेटवर्क ग्लिच है, वीडियो इज लैकिंग. मुझे सामने तो वीडियो ठीक दिख रहा है. व्हाट कैन बी डन? Restart the Wi-Fi. Sir, but Wi-Fi speed is too good here.
Am I audible, sir?
Is it not something that we can continue?
Hello? Am I
Yes,
audible, sir?
yes, please.
Sir, yes, you may continue, sir. There is no issue in that. Like little bit of lag is there. Just because of some network glitch, it will continue.
Okay, thank you.
No issue, sir. It's
Uh,
visible.
so let's start our class. Today we shall be starting with some basics of economy, and then we shall move to microeconomy. We shall be covering microeconomy in only two classes because, as I have explained in the last class, that microeconomy doesn't form major part of our syllabus. A few questions have been asked in last decade, because of which some basic knowledge we will be giving to you. More importantly, we shall be studying microeconomy for the purpose of understanding the macroeconomy. Like when we shall be talking about the demand, supply, all those things in the macroeconomy chapter, we should have some basics about those microeconomy things clear. Yeah. So the first thing that we had talked in the last class was the definition of economics. Do any one of you remember it? The exact definition of economics? Please write it down if you have memorized. So when I ask, na, do you remember it? Do you know it? It means that you have to tell it. Yeah, with keywords, yes, please tell, Bhanu. प्रोडक्शन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एक्सचेंज एंड कंजम्पशन ऑफ, बिल्कुल सही बोल रहे हैं प्रगति, प्रोडक्शन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एक्सचेंज एंड कंजम्पशन ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. This is what we were looking at. So we shall start this class from there only, like what does it mean by goods and services? Okay. So goods are all the things around us. I mean, this pen is also a kind of good. This board is a good. The laptop in front of which you are sitting is a kind of good. So all the tangible items in front of you can be categorized as good. This is not good or bad वाला good. This is goods मतलब सामान, जिसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना वस्तु. That kind of good we are talking about. Okay, so we can say that it is something tangible. On the other hand, services are something which is intangible. Intangible means something that you cannot hold, something that you cannot feel. Feel in the sense that you cannot touch it. You can only experience it. So it is intangible. It can be experienced mostly. Whereas the goods can be something which can be touched, it can be stored, but you cannot store the services. Let me give you an example, then it would be clear. For example, teaching is a kind of service that I am giving to you people. Now, it cannot be stored. You cannot say na कि सारा knowledge रख लेते हैं एक जगह कहीं पे. This is simply not possible. Whereas, for example, goods, laptop, you can buy a lot many laptops, you can store it. Okay, since it cannot be stored, that's why later on we shall see there is something called wholesale for goods. But there is nothing like wholesale. There is no wholesale. There is only retail of services. So services are directly provided by the service provider to the person who is enjoying the services. Okay. A lot many people are still complaining about the video. Someone from the admin, if it is something that become unbearable, then we can restart the class. Video बहुत blur है. Can someone help me if someone is from the tech team? What can be done? Not able to see the board. Can't understand.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay, sir, we can refresh our network there. Therefore, you can join like within some seconds. You may log out and then again join the Zoom meeting.
Let me try that.
Okay, sir. We are waiting. You'll have to leave the meeting, then again join. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now it's looking clear.
So thank you. So that's all goods and services. That what I was talking about. Let me summarize it again. Goods are something which is tangible. All the things that we look around is categorized as good. This pen, this laptop, the chair, the table, everything around which you can touch, which you can hold is good. This is called tangible, something which is experienced only, like those are the services. For example, education is a kind of services, health, education, someone who is driving you from one place to another, travel, tourism, hotel, all these are categorized as services. So these are intangible. Intangible means you cannot store them, you cannot hold them, you can only experience them. That's why also one thing that we see is that goods, there is something called wholesale is possible, because someone can buy in bulk, store it, then it can be sold individually. But in case of services, there is direct transfer from the one who is providing the services to the one who is the recipient of the services. So there is no such wholesale is possible. Only retail is possible in case of services. Okay. See, initially when economics branch was started, it's like it's a branch of social sciences. It started with microeconomy only. So only after the Keynesian theory, or like the Great Depression, the economics started focusing on the aspect of macroeconomy. And also initially everything was, I mean, most of the economic activities was surrounded by goods only. Like when industrial development happened, we started producing more and more of goods. So most of the time when we shall be studying microeconomy, we would be writing down all the definition or understanding all the concepts in terms of goods. But wherever I say goods, it would include both good as well as services. Unless I specifically say that I mean good by good only, you will assume that goods means both goods and services. For example, when I will say that as price increases, the demand of good shall decrease, I would say goods, but you would understand that I mean both goods as well as services. It would be there in your books as well. All the books, NCERT or any economics book, they will write in terms of goods. But what they mean is both goods as well as services. So there should not be any confusion in this regard. Okay. Next thing is we shall be studying is type of goods. The first category is final goods and intermediate goods. As is clear with the name, final goods matlab something which is final, means it is not going for further changes. Whereas intermediate good is something which is going to be changed further before it is going to be consumed. Okay. Let's take an example, then we shall be writing down the definition. So yesterday we have taken the example of tomato. Let's take the same example. If there is a company which buys tomato and then it converts it into ketchup. In this example, tomato is not something which is being consumed by the consumer. It is not the final product which is being consumed. The final product is ketchup. So ketchup is an example of final good. Tomato is an example of intermediate good. So the definition of final good would be any good, please write it down, any good which is consumed by the final user. Consumed के बगल में also write consumed or used. I would explain why I have written both consumed as well as used. You just write it down. So any good which is consumed or used by the final user in the present form. That is, it is not meant for, resale resale, or to be used in production. Or to be used in production means this is something which whoever is buying for its own purposes only. He is not going to transfer it to someone else, neither he is going to make it transform it into some other good. This is called final goods. Implicitly you must have understood the definition of intermediate good, that you will write on your own: any good which is purchased for further transformation into some other good, or which is purchased for the resale. That is example of intermediate good. Now I would give you some example. You tell me whether it is an example of intermediate good or final good. Okay. Yes, Satish is suggesting very good that something called raw material would be an example of intermediate good. Okay. Now you tell me an example. Whether this pen, the goods, first example that we have taken, it would be categorized the final good or an intermediate good. Yeah, so this pen is something which I am using. I am not going to make anything out of this pen. Neither I am going to resell it. So this is an example of final good. But the same pen, when it was with the retailer or wholesaler, it was an intermediate good for that person, because he has purchased this pen for the purpose of reselling it. It was not meant for his consumption. Okay, so it depends on the purpose as well. तो एक लाइन लिख लो कि whether a good is final good or intermediate good depends on the purpose as well. So whoever is owning that good, what is the purpose of its use, it will determine whether it is final good or intermediate good. Then the final good could be of two types. Either it could be consumer good or capital good. For example, consumer good is all the things that you have, you and me are consumers. So everything that we have in our home is example of consumer good. Whereas capital good is any good which will transform this intermediate good into final good. For example, machinery. This example में हम लें, so this tomato will be converted to ketchup with the use of some machinery. So its example of capital good is machinery. So the good which converts the intermediate good into final good is called capital good. Write it down. Capital good का definition. Nut and bolt all are they are not capital good per se. Nut and bolt are intermediate good, because like there is some big machine, इसमें nut bolt use किया जाएगा. For example, nut bolt in a car has a lot of nut bolt, so all the nut bolts are intermediate good. They would be fitted into the body of the car, and then car would be the final good. Okay, so machinery would be categorized as capital good, because these machinery with the help of labor, obviously some of you are suggesting with the help of labor, will convert the intermediate good into final good. I would advise you that let people talk to me, because some of you, the answer that you are giving may not be correct, and I may not always be in a position to look for your answers. So let everyone's doubt come to me and let me answer those doubts. Okay, let's maintain this practice. It would be healthy for all of us. Yeah, I will be dictating. Don't worry. So have you written down the definition of capital good? So capital good का definition लिख लो for those who have not written. So capital goods are those goods which converts the intermediate good into final goods. For example, machinery. So essentially, these are physical assets. These are physical assets that are used in production process. Physical assets that are used in production process. One more defining feature of capital good is they themselves don't get consumed. This is the difference between capital good and intermediate good. Like in the process of production of this ketchup, the tomato would be consumed. There would be no more tomato after the production process is over. There would only be ketchup, but machinery would remain there as it is. So one defining feature of capital good is they do not get consumed. Okay. Neither they get transformed. Write it down, Vedika. They don't get consumed because I mean some question can come whether they will confuse you between intermediate good and capital good, because intermediate good are also part of the production process. In this production process, tomato and machinery both are involved, but tomato will get consumed, tomato will get transformed. So if it is getting transformed or getting consumed, it's an intermediate good. A capital good would remain in the same form even after the production process has completed. Okay. Consumer goods जो कि so these are the products जो कि consumer use करते हैं. Now the product that you use around you can fall into either of these three categories. They can be durable, non-durable, or semi-durable. At some places, you can see that they are categorizing it only in two categories, durable and non-durable. So, as is the name suggests, durable means something which is not immediately consumed, which is consumed over a period of time. For example, TV, fridge, all these electrical appliances, they remain in your house for say 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, a long period of time. Whereas there are certain items like rice, biscuits, they are finished immediately after their use. Yes, laptop, table, right. ठीक है, so इसमें आप लिखो कि they have a life span of 3 years or more. Durable goods, they have a life span of 3 years or more. Semi-durable is something which has a life, which are not immediately consumed like rice or biscuit, but they have a life span of less than 3 years. Can you give me some example? I mean, there are some goods which are not immediately consumed like rice or biscuit. ठीक है? But they do not have a longer lifespan either, like this. Yes. Not dry fruits. Dry fruits are also consumed immediately. As soon as you eat that nut, it is over. Maggie, all the food items are non-durable. Yes, clothes. Akshay is right. Clothes usually do not last for 3 or more years. They last for an year or so. Okay, depending upon your nature of use as well. Okay, but they do not have very long life either. So sometimes they are categorized as semi-durable or non-durable only. So when you are categorizing goods into only consumer goods in two categories, you will keep them in non-durable. But if you are categorizing them in three categories, it would be in semi-durable. So इसका example लिखो cloths. So they have a lifespan of less than 3 years. So these are called semi-durable. Okay. Now here one more thing I would like to make you clear. There could be, depending upon the use or nature of the certain things, one person may categorize the same item into non-durable. Someone else can categorize it into semi-durable. Someone can say कि I have bought this shirt in 2010. I am still using it. ठीक है? Or like in our middle class family, it happens na, first shirt is bought, it is wore as a shirt, then we make it pocha, and then we make it into something else. So don't argue in that fashion. It may lead to a wrong answer. See, all those food items, probably there is some confusion in which you have understood it. Every consumer items which is finished immediately after consumption is non-durable. For example, wine, someone is giving example. As soon as you drink that 1 ml of wine, it is no more in this world. So its consumption start only after you start drinking. Na? Unlike cloth, that it's not that you are wearing a cloth and it is over, it is finished. It will remain there. Your TV and fridge, you have used the TV, but still that TV is there. But same is not true for food products. That's the difference between durable and non-durable. Yes, toothbrush, you have brushed it, still it would remain there, but it would be most likely a semi-durable thing because it would not last for 3 years or so. Okay, so food products are non-durable. Is it clear now? Yes, Sophia, you are right. Now, I would give an example. In this whole gamut of goods, you have to tell me where does this good lie? A car which is used by a Ola driver, in which category would that fall? Car used by Ola driver. Test the definition. Don't go by the feel. Test the definition. And I have told you one more thing. Wherever I say good, it includes both good and services. Now again test and give the answer. Okay? All the answer from now onwards only would be considered. Give the answer again. Now most of you are giving right answer. If you are giving wrong answer. Okay? So the correct answer is capital good. Because that car by that Ola driver is used to produce some other goods or services. He is providing a service, travel, and he is using that car for providing that service. So it's a capital good. At the same time, the car being used by me is an example of consumer good. Because I am the end consumer. I am not using it for providing any service to anyone else. Okay? In the last time when I was teaching, someone said that, sir, what if you help your friend in his locomotion by your car? Then you are providing a service to your friend. Then it would become a capital good. Well, yes, if I take money from my friend. In economy, only those things are considered in which there is an exchange happening. Otherwise, I am the end user. But if I start using that car for faring people, now, I mean, in return of some money, then I am providing a service. That time, it will become a capital good because it is helping me make some money. Otherwise, I am the end user. I am the end user. So, I am a consumer. I am consumer. It would be a kind of durable. Is it now clear? Sewing machine is a capital good when it would be used for someone who is sewing cloths or stitching cloth for sale. Then that sewing machine would be a capital good. But those women who are using it for their own purposes in the home, ठीक है, homemaker, home woman, for them it would be a consumer good of the category durable. Rajiv is saying, can we say goods which create assets are called capital goods? I would rather like replace that asset word with good. So a good that creates other goods and services is capital good. Yes, for own purposes, because now I am the final user. So see, final goods are of two categories, na? Capital good and consumer good. So both are the final user. That Ola driver is also the final user of the car, but his purpose of using that car is different from the purpose of the consumer. His purpose is to make money with the help of that car. So he is using it as a asset to make money. Then it is called capital good. Is it clear now? Okay, if any one of you have any doubt, please let me know, and otherwise we shall move forward. Yes, it depends on purpose, as I have made you write earlier as well. So let's move forward. There is something called law of supply. Let's take the same example of that Ola driver. Many of you might have seen that Ola has a something called surge pricing. Are you aware of it? Surge pricing. So during the peak hour, the prices increase. So when Ola was asked that why do you have this practice? I mean, for same 3 kilometer, in evening you are asking 1,000 rupees. In the morning you are asking only 300 rupees. Why this collaborative? Then the reply of Ola and Uber was that we do so that more drivers are there on the streets when demand is high. Why would more driver be there on the street if prices increases? Can you give me explanation for this? Why was the owner of Ola saying that surge pricing helps us bring more car on the street? Yes, because the profit would be more. So more driver would be inclined to run their car when profit is more. If I am a driver and I am getting 1,000 rupees for 3 kilometer, I would prefer to run in that time rather than running my car at a time when I will get only 300 rupees. Make sense? This is same thing called as law of supply. I have told you earlier as well. There is nothing in the economics which you don't know. The only terminology is unknown to you. Law of supply says that if prices increases, the person who is supplying or producing the goods and services would be interested in producing more. If I am the one who is producing a goods and service, then I would produce more if prices increases. As we have seen from the driver's perspective, they are willing to run more if the prices paid to them increases. Another example I would give you, see, I had to buy some chairs, like around 60 chairs for my classroom. So I went to the chair manufacturer and said, ki, what is the price? He said that 1,500 rupees per chair. I told him that I need 60 chairs within 3 days. He said, not possible. Within 3 days, we can make at max 10 chairs. Okay, so you will not get it. Then I said, see, I will pay you 2,000 rupees per chair, but I want all 60 chairs. He very willingly become ready. When I increased the prices, he was ready that within 3 days, I will produce 60 chairs. He will hire more workers from here, there, and everywhere, or maybe he will purchase the chair from someone else and will supply it to me. So he is willing to supply more chairs as soon as I increase the prices. Earlier, he was not interested in supplying more chairs. This is simply law of supply. So please write down the definition. All else being equal, ठीक है, the quantity, all else being equal means only prices are changing, nothing else is changing. So the quantity supplied of a good or service will increase as its price increases, and vice versa. At many places you will see only definition writing in terms of good. The quantity supplied of a good will increase, but I have written both goods and services. ठीक है, let me know when you finish writing. Do you people also take break in the class, or we finish class in one go? One go. Yes, break. The jury is divided. Depends. Okay, okay. Write it down first. We will see. Okay, so if I have to mathematically put it, can I say that the quantity supplied is directly proportional to the price? S means supplied. QS is directly proportional to price. Okay, and if I had to make a diagram for this directly proportional relationship, can I make a diagram like this? Where on this y-axis I am writing quantity, on x-axis I am writing price. There is direct correlation between the two. You can also understand it by the fact that if someone is said that I will not pay you, if I go to the railway station and say the auto driver over there that I will not give you any rupee, please drop me to my home, will anyone be ready to supply any of the services? He will say, why will I go then? No. So at zero price, there would be zero supply. As prices increases, if I go and say there, I will pay you 1 lakh rupees, how many of you are willing to drop me? Everyone in the city will come ki I will drop, I will drop. So the quantity supplied is directly proportional to the price. ठीक है? At any P, you can find the respective Q. This is a simple thing. Now we shall move to the similar thing. This is a relationship that we have drawn from the perspective of supplier or producer. Okay, now we shall look it from the perspective of consumer. Suppose you go to the market one fine day. You go to the market with the mindset that today I will buy 1 kg of tomato. And then as a matter of surprise, when you ask the price, he says that it is rupees 150 per kg. Don't you change your mind and say that, see, I will only buy 250 grams. Okay, 250 grams is enough. So what you have done, as price increased, you reduce the demand that you were willing to buy. So from consumer's perspective, this is called law of demand. That there is an inverse relationship. As the price of a good decreases, the quantity demanded by consumer increases, and vice versa. ठीक है, यहां पे क्या कह रहा है कि if price increases, then quantity decreases. Inverse, if price decreases, the quantity demanded would increase. So there is an inverse relationship between Q and P. Q is inversely related to P. This Q is Q demanded. We are now talking from the perspective of consumer. Yes, you are right, Sahil. So Q demanded by the consumer would be inversely proportional to the price. If I have to make a graph for the same, something of this kind would be my graph. As price increased, at P1, P2. As price increase from P1 to P2, the quantity is ऊपर लिखिए. Here, Q2 is less than Q1. Simple. This is something, because we have been mostly on the consumer side, this is something that we very easily understand. Throughout our life, we have been a consumer. Downward sloping, बिल्कुल सही बात है वेदिका. QD is quantity demanded. That's why it is law of demand. The quantity that a consumer demanded means that you are willing to buy. But can you give me any reason why this happens? If I have to dig deeper, this is something that you have already understood. I need not dig deeper as such. But still, I want you to apply some, put some pressure on your brain. Why this happens? If price increases, why is it so that we are not willing to buy the same quantity of goods? Limited resources, Dipanshu is saying, inflation तो further effect है. Limited resource is one such thing, you are right. Budget issues, obviously, that is something very prominently told, right? The similar thing that you have said is technically called an observation of diminishing marginal utility. Just write this line, that it happens, this law of demand works due to the observation of diminishing marginal utility. I would explain what diminishing marginal utility is. Let's first understand the three terms which are written over here. What is utility? Utility is simple terms, like in English meaning, if you see, it is kind of usefulness. But in economic terms, I would rather say it is the return that you derive by consumption. Yeah, satisfaction, return or satisfaction that you derive by consuming something. For example, say you are offered a cup of tea. When you go to some relative, he or she offer you a cup of tea. You feel very happy. You enjoy that cup of tea. If that relatives offer you another cup of tea, do you readily accept as readily you have accepted the first cup of tea? No, you say कि अब कितना चाय पिलाओगे, कुछ और पिलाओ, कुछ मीठा लेके आओ, कुछ बिस्किट लेके आओ. Exactly. So the utility that you derive, the satisfaction that you derive, usefulness, return or satisfaction, this satisfaction keeps on diminishing. Diminishing means reducing with every subsequent unit. So इसको आप लिखो diminishing marginal utility का, कि the utility derived by consumption of the utility derived by the consumption of every additional unit, the consumption of every additional unit of a good reduces. So the whole sentence is something like that. The utility derived by consumption of any additional unit of a good reduces, or write it, keep on reducing. Reduces ko kaat do, right? Keep on reducing. So marginal means additional, or this is, remember it, in future also I will use this meaning of marginal. In economic terms, marginal means every additional unit. Additional, ठीक है, marginal consumption. यहाँ पे क्या है? Marginal utility means the utility from additional unit. So first cup of tea will probably give you the same utility, enjoyment, satisfaction, but the second would not give you the same utility as the first cup of tea has given. The third would even give you less satisfaction. Fourth, fifth पे जाते जाते आप बस कर दोगे कि अब हमको नहीं चाहिए. ठीक है. Now if I look at this diagram, so a person is willing to consume Q1 quantity at P1 price. Okay, but he is not willing to pay you the same price for any additional unit because the utility that he will derive is not the same. So he will pay you the price for the utility of any good. So for if he or she has to buy any additional unit, the price has to go down because his or her utility has gone down. Like price is for utility. Price is for utility. So if utility increases, the price should also increase. But if utility reduces, the price would also reduce. So for consumption of additional items, since utility is reducing, the price should also reduce. Okay. So additional item would be consumed. If you want to increase this consumption, the price should come down. The inverse is also true. If you increase the prices, then the consumption would further reduce. Okay. So this is the law of diminishing marginal utility based on which the law of demand is derived. Okay. So only question which is possible over here is what is law of diminishing marginal utility? They can directly ask it. They will simply ABCD. They will give you 4 statements. You will have to finalize which of the statements are correct. Okay. Not further like further graph etc. are not asked in UPSC. Have you noted down graph, definition, everything? There are a lot of exceptions, Bhanu. We shall look into it. The world is full of exceptions. The rules are only made for the exception, you know. So let's first come, like if for a good person, I draw both law of demand and law of supply on the same curve. So this would be something like this. This is law of supply. And this is law of demand. This is common Q. Quantity. This is price. Now, there in a market, there has to be a situation so that the quantity which someone is producing should match the quantity which is being consumed. No, though the curve will not touch this axis, because if this axis is being touched, it means at zero price something is being consumed. So that's why this curve is not going to touch this axis. Okay, whereas the supply curve will touch the axis because at zero price there would be zero quantity which would be supplied. Okay, actually this curve is mostly not a straight line. This would be something like, in practical sense, this curve usually happens something like this. But for simplicity, we are taking a straight line example. Okay. So in a market scenario, what will happen? The quantity which will be produced would be same as the quantity which would be consumed. Something cannot be consumed which is not produced, right? So at some point of time, the two QD and QS are going to match. This we will call at QM. This is the quantity which is produced as well as supplied in market. Okay, and the point where they will intersect, this point is called market equilibrium. And the price at this point is called market price. So write down the definition of market equilibrium. It is the point where demand curve and supply curve intersect each other. It is the point where the demand curve and supply curve intersect each other. The price at this point is called market price. So in an ideal market scenario, this is the price which should be observed. Quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. ठीक है? There was someone with the name Adam Smith. पिछले क्लास में भी कुछ लोगों ने इनका नाम लिया था. He said that there is an invisible hand of market. There is an invisible hand of market which pushes the price towards market equilibrium price. ठीक है? I was hoping the doubt that Ashish has asked, I was hoping why not other people who have already studied economics, why are they not raising this doubt? ठीक है, अब जाके मेरी आत्मा को शांति मिली है. I will come to that. First study this. So Adam Smith said that if we change the price, that price would automatically move towards market price. And who is doing this? So it is being done by invisible hand of market. So market has an invisible hand which pushes the prices towards this equilibrium price. Now, to understand this, we will take an example where we artificially change the price. Okay. Suppose I have increased price to this point. I have increased price. I am a supplier. I said that I will not provide goods at this MP. I will provide good at some higher price. Say P1. P1 रख लेते हैं यहाँ पे. Which is more than the market price. What will happen? I am willing to produce this Q1 quantity here. But at the same time, at this price, the consumers are not willing to buy this much of quantity. They are only willing to buy a quantity which is less. Now, this would be the gap. This additional quantity would be left with me if I am a supplier. Okay, it so happens now that in Sabzi Mandi in the evening, what you see that they are selling prices, they are selling their vegetables and goods at a very less prices. Why it so happens? Because artificially during the daytime, they has increased the prices way above the market price. Then they were at this price, they were not able to sell all the vegetables because consumer decided to buy less amount of tomato. So in the end, when there was an excess quantity which was left with them, they have to reduce the prices and bring it back to this market price. So if some actor in the market decides to change the price, he cannot do it. He has to adjust his price towards this equilibrium price. Okay? This scenario, when there is an excess goods produced, this is called excess supply. If if supplier increases the price artificially, there would be a situation of excess supply. Opposite to this will happen if someone decides to reduce the price artificially. Suppose they have reduced price to something called P2. At this price, what will happen? That the demand would be high and the production would be low. This was the example of LPG when subsidy was given or artificially government was fixing the prices. Then what you might have seen during your childhood that people used to make a queue. The LPG cylinder did not used to be available. Okay, why? Because government has artificially reduced the price. At this reduced price, the demand was high and the supply was low. So what was happening? Black marketing of those cylinder. Ultimately, consumer has to pay this equilibrium price, but they were not paying it directly, rather indirectly. So the price was moving towards this market price in one way or another. This scenario is called excess demand. And these two scenarios of excess demand and excess supply would be addressed by changing the price to market price. This is also called, Bhanu is suggesting, excess demand can be also called as a scarcity. When enough goods are not available, when the supply is not able to cope up with the demand. See, normally, if we look from the mathematic perspective, this is how the graph should be made. Okay. Normally, the changing variable we keep on the x-axis and the dependent variable we keep on the y-axis. But there was some person named as Alfred Marshall. He popularized a curve which is contrary to this. What he started doing is he started plotting this Q versus P curve opposite. Q on the x-axis and P on the y-axis. So normally in economics book, you always get this kind of curve. So now what you will do is, you will plot a curve, all this curve with this convention. The curve would remain same. But this is your class assignment, do it now. Okay. Why I change the convention? Because it is easy for you to understand. Because since childhood, we have studied in this convention only that the independent variable x, which will change, we will keep on the x-axis. The dependent variable we keep on the y-axis. This is the common mathematical practice which we have studied always. So to make you understand easily, I use this convention. But in economics, this is the convention which is followed. Both have similar curve. The demand curve, the supply curve would still be like this only, even in this convention, and the demand curve would still be inversely proportional and something like this only. The market price would now be on the y-axis and the quantity in the market would be on the x-axis. Now, if prices are increased, this will denote the excess supply, or rather, यहाँ पे you can write excess supply. If prices are reduced, there would be a scenario of excess demand. Let me know if you have finished making this diagram. So from now onwards, now I presume that you have understood the convention. We shall follow this convention only. Anyone has difficulty in shifting from this to that, let me know. I can make some more effort in explaining the things. Clear? Chalo. Now let me delete this. Can you give me an example? Although I have already given you some example where prices are artificially brought lower than the market prices. This is the market price as per this curve. You give the example. I am drawing the curve. Can you give me an example where prices are artificially brought low? Vegetables are mostly market determined. Okay. It is usually done by the government when government fixes some price. Okay. The most common or the current example is the example of urea pricing, fertilizer prices, that is being determined by the government, and government says that urea shall be sold in the market at this so and so rate only. Okay, so government fixes the maximum price that gave seller can sell. Okay, so when government fixes the maximum price, this is called price ceiling. देखो आप, when government fixes the maximum price of a good in the market, it is known as price ceiling. The price ceiling would relate to excess demand or excess supply. Yes, there would be excess demand because demand would be this much of quantity, whereas supply is only this much of quantity. This is the scenario of excess demand. On the opposite, if by some means, and see usually which is the strongest player which can artificially determine the prices. If we have taken the example of vegetable seller, if they decide to artificially increase the price, they cannot maintain it till evening. By the evening वो अपनी औकात में आ जाएंगे and they will come back to the market prices. So they are a small player in the market. The government is a very big and powerful player. It can make laws and through which it can manipulate the whole market. So usually it is the government which does this price ceiling kind of thing. Okay. On the opposite, if government decides that the minimum price would be this only, it would be termed as price floor. So when government fixes a price as the minimum price of some good, it is known as price floor. When government fixes the minimum price of a good in the market, it is known as price floor. Can you give me any example of price floor? No, price of pharmaceutical product are example of price ceiling. The government fixes the maximum price. Yes, MSP. इसका example MSP. The government says that minimum price of wheat would be ₹20 per kg. उससे कम में आप नहीं ले सकते. So government, maybe market price is ₹15 per kg. Government is artificially increasing the price that there would be a minimum price of ₹20 per kg. What happens? Every farmer is now producing wheat. So there is a situation when the supplier is supplying more, the demand is less. There is a situation of excess supply. So in case of price floor, there would be excess supply. In case of price ceiling, there would be excess demand. Is it clear? See, if in exam comes, I would not expect you people that you memorize this thing that in case of price ceiling, there would be excess demand. In case of price floor, there is excess supply. Because every day there would be 2-3 more concepts will come. You cannot memorize everything. So what I expect from you that if a question comes that in a situation of price ceiling, what you will do is you will simply draw this diagram. प्राइस सेलिंग है मतलब मार्केट प्राइस से नीचे कोई एक मैक्सिमम प्राइस लगा दिया गया है, ये वाला सिचुएशन है. ठीक है, प्राइस सीलिंग का. ठीक है, प्राइस सीलिंग है तो सप्लायर ये सप्लाई कर रहा है, डिमांड करने वाला दिस इज डिमांडेड. सो दिस इज अ सिचुएशन वेयर डिमांड इज मोर देन सप्लाई, सो देयर इज एक्सेस डिमांड. Whenever this question comes, I want you to make this diagram and give the answer rather than memorizing these things. I don't want you to memorize anything. Can you do this if a question comes like this? Yes or no? Have you got this confidence or not? So actually what I do on my Telegram channel every day, whatever I teach, I shall put 4 or 5 questions on my Telegram channel the next day. So tomorrow morning, similar few questions that would be of UPSC standard, they would be posted on my Telegram channel. Do practice them, and if you make any error, we can discuss those things in the class. If you are not able to apply this knowledge, then we can discuss in the class. So in the beginning of the class, we will devote the first 5 or 10 minutes in discussing the things that we learned in the last class. If you have any doubt, and then we shall start the class. Okay, so this would be the practice that we will follow. And again, while solving the question, it may take you more than 2 minutes or 3 minutes initially, but never memorize such thing. Always memorize only this diagram. Okay. In the end of the class, I will show you the Telegram channel link also. अभी आगे बढ़ते हैं. So let's come back to this thing, diminishing marginal utility. Okay, I have written down the definition as well. If any one of you failed to write the definition, you can write it. If you go on consuming the units of the same product, the satisfaction from each successive unit goes on diminishing. This is the definition of law of diminishing marginal utility. In that law of demand, you might be remembering that we have written that keeping all other things as constant, that quantity demanded would be inversely proportional to the price. Can you suggest me what are the other things which affect the demand. Apart from the price, one factor is price, that if price changes, the demand would change. Please move aside. I thought you have already written. Consumer behavior is a bit vague thing. Consumer behavior yes, income, preference. One thing is income, another is preference. Availability, competition. If some other good is available or not. So now we shall look into this factor of income. We shall look into this preference and other substitute, competition, all these things as well. Let's look into this factor of income. What will happen if income of the consumer increases? What would be the demand effect on demand? Suppose tomorrow Modi ji drops 15 lakh rupees into your bank account. How will you behave in the market? High demand. You will see that you have now 15 lakh rupees in your pocket. You will go and buy all those things that you had always wished, जो आपके wish list में Amazon में था, वो completely cart में add हो जाएगा तुरंत. Okay, so as income increases, the demand increases. This is called आम जिंदगी. ठीक है, there would definitely be a Mentos जिंदगी. ठीक है, so normal good is a good. Write down the definition of normal good. जिससे मैं आम जिंदगी बोल रहा हूं, that is the जिंदगी of a normal good. So normal good is a good where so normal good is a good where the propensity where the consumption increases, as the income of consumer increases. The consumption increases, the income of the consumption increases as the income of consumer increases. So if आम जिंदगी नॉर्मल सी बात है, if income is increasing, we would buy more. So consumption is increasing. Consumption को हम demand भी बोल सकते हैं. Our demand would also increase. So this is all that thing which is happening. But the same does not happen with all kind of goods. There are certain goods for which, as the income of consumer increases, their demand reduces. So first write down the definition. Keep thinking about the example. If you are not able to come with one, I will give one. Okay, so write the definition of inferior goods. These are the goods whose demand reduces as the income rises. Can you give me some example? Think of yourself. What were you consuming during your childhood when you have less pocket money? When your pocket money increased, you shifted to some other items. Double toned milk, lollipop, cheaper products. Yes, some inferior goods. And one of the best example of inferior goods are coarse cereals. Jowar, bajra, we have stopped consuming them and we have now shifted to wheat. Yes. Normal phone. जो फीचर फोन जिसे बोलते हैं, फीचर फोन इज नाउ बिकमिंग एन इंफीरियर गुड. पीपल आर शिफ्टिंग टू अ स्मार्टफोन एज देयर इनकम आर increasing. Their, I mean, as people's income increases, they are not buying more and more of feature phone. Public transport, they are also a kind of inferior services. As people's income increases, they buy their own car, they prefer to hire their own car and private taxi and so on. Okay. Banaspati ghee, dalda. So these are example of some of the inferior goods. So now in their case, as their income is increasing, their consumption is decreasing. There is something called, on the other extreme, there is something called opposite of inferior good, luxury good. In their case, what happens? Luxury goods are those goods whose demand increases disproportionately to increase in income. Write down. They are the goods whose demand increases disproportionately to increase in income. ठीक है. VMW people are giving example. I would take more Indian example. ठीक है. That is iPhone. All those people who consider themselves rich, they will buy no phone other than iPhone. So these are goods whose demand increases disproportionately to increase in income. Normal good का भी, as the income increases, demand increases. But in the case of luxury good, there is disproportionate increase in demand. Yes, diamond, gold, all these are luxury goods. Everything which attracts 28% GST, government thinks that these are luxury goods. ठीक है. Do you know what is the amount of GST on gold and jewelry? नहीं, 5% नहीं है, 0 भी नहीं है. Ideally, in my opinion, it should have been 28% because they are luxury goods. However, the rate of taxation on them is merely 3%. So this is one arena where government acts irrationally. आप जब वो पढ़ोगे ना, गवर्नेंस वाला चैप्टर, there you will study something called pressure group. So there are certain pressure group which are able to have certain policies in their favor. So this is the pressure group of those bullion market, like jewelers. Their pressure group has managed to have this low taxation rate, and their argument, they have convinced the government that if you increase taxes on gold and jewelry, then their smuggling start happening. So you have to keep taxes at lower rate so that in the formal market their sale continues. Otherwise, they will start moving towards black market and informal market only. Okay, let's come back to our point. We have understood luxury good, inferior good, normal good, all these things. Next, there are certain goods which do not follow the law of demand. Few of you were saying, sir, there are exceptions as well. So what was the law of demand? बताओ जरा. The law of demand was, let's revise, that as prices increases, the Q demanded reduces. So I am saying that there are certain goods which are not following them. So in their case, what will happen? As prices increases, the quantity demanded would increase, or opposite, as prices reduces, their quantity demanded would reduce. This is the behavior which are followed by the goods which are known as Giffen goods. So write down the definition of Giffen goods. Giffen goods are those inferior goods. They are inferior goods, or rather we can say they are extremely inferior goods. Giffen goods are extremely inferior goods such that decrease in price leads to decrease in demand. This is such an inferior good that if their prices reduces, people think that they are now so inferior, people stop buying these goods. For example, that marigold biscuit you might have eaten during your childhood whenever you fall sick. नहीं, जिसको दूध में डुबा के खाते थे अपन. It's not that if their prices reduces, people will start buying them more. People will stop buying that even more, because they will think that it is sold at even 1 rupees per kg. Leave it. So usually the staple foods fall in this category. Example लिखो staple foods. So an experiment was done in China, and in that experiment what was done, that in a city where the staple food was rice, they increased subsidy on rice. So what will happen if the government start giving subsidy? The prices would go down. So the prices reduced, and as a result of reduction in prices, the consumption of rice further reduced. The saving that people had by reduction in prices, they bought some other food article using that money rather than consuming more and more of rices. So normally, if the prices has reduced, its consumption should have gone up. People should have shifted to this good, but it did not happen. Someone is giving nano car is also an example. Yes, nano car price was less, so because of the less prices, people did not demand it. Veblen good is also an exception to the law of demand. It also follows this practice only, that as prices increases, the quantity demanded increases. But it is not a kind of inferior good, rather it is a kind of luxury good. So the definition would be that Veblen good are a kind of luxury good. Likho, write down. Veblen good are kind of luxury goods whose demand increases as the price increases. Whose demand increases as their price increases, because increased prices bestow higher status to their owner. Yes, you are right. Bestow or provide higher status to their owner. So these are the luxury goods whose demand increases as their prices increase. Why it so happens? Because increased prices provides higher status to their owner. So these are the goods which are bought not because of their utility, rather because of status. One of the example is our own iPhone, not our own, India's own iPhone. ठीक है. So one of the example is iPhone. Another example is Rolls-Royce car. दे रोलेक्स की घड़ियां बिल्कुल सही बात है. Rolls-Royce car is purely handmade even in this 21st century. Everything is handmade, every LED light is fixed by hand. And every car is unique. They do not make the two cars of the same design. Why? Because their uniqueness keeps the status of their owner. Okay. And these cars are bought only for the status. And in क्या बोलते हैं, you might have seen that Three Idiot movie. This car, sorry, this watch, the example that his price tag would have been husband was giving. So those are also the goods that he was referring to, this diamond necklace and that which edition watch, that whatever he said, those are the example of Veblen goods. ठीक है. So I will just take a 5-minute break over here. I will be back in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back everyone. Is audio, video, everything clear?
Yes,
Just
sir.
confirm once. चलो, thank you. चलो, एक चीज आप बताओ. Do you have any doubt till now? Because that's all that we are going to study the exceptions. There, one more thing is there. Whatever I am telling you that luxury good, everything is relative. For example, BMW car or say Mercedes may be a luxury good in India, and it may not be a luxury good in USA. Okay, so everything is situational, contextual. Someone can categorize one item, or like one book can categorize one item as a normal good, another book can categorize the same item as a luxury good. So what's important is not the item or the example. The more important is the definition. The definition, you must have crystal clarity. So if you have any doubt in the definition, please ask. Otherwise, we should move forward. Or it's like these goods also, like we have taken the example of iPhone. Like if their demand is increasing as their price is increasing, people are buying iPhone precisely for the reason because it is giving a status. But even this situation like this should have ideally led Apple to keep on increasing its prices. Why only 1 lakh? Why not 2 lakh? Why not 3 lakh? Why not 4 lakh? If it is the situation that if I increase price, my demand would increase, so I should increase price further, keep on increasing. But Apple does not do that, because this behavior will be followed in particular price range. After that price range, again, as price increases, demand would start reducing. So everything is contextual, but we do not have to study microeconomy in so much of detail. We just only have to remember the definition. That's it. So given goods are extremely inferior goods, and in their case, even decrease in prices leads to further decrease in demand. So decrease in prices are leading to decrease in demand. Corollary is that increase in prices would lead to increase in quantity demanded. This is something like this, that if prices here, quantity here, if the prices are reducing, the demand is also reducing. So this is something of this kind is their demand curve. Okay, so this is directly proportional demand curve, which is the violation of law of demand. Okay, is it clear? Bandi, Nagamani, is it clear? So this could also be the question, that if this is the demand curve, what kind of good it is? This question can be asked. So your answer would be, it would be either Giffen good or Veblen good. Both have this directly proportional demand curve, which is contrary to the law of demand. But these exceptions we would leave here only. From now onwards, we would only think in terms of those goods which are following the law of demand and law of supply. Okay, so please do not raise this question, sir. If I say something in the future that all goods like this, I would only mean all normal goods. Okay. Now let's come back to this law of demand itself. Law of demand says that as prices changes, the quantity demanded would change. Okay, so this is same as elasticity. You might have studied it in 11th or 12th, that if we apply force on something, its length would change. This was our definition in 11th, elasticity. So some goods would be more elastic. Acha, 12th mein tha. Okay, I have studied it long ago, so I was a bit confused. So some goods would change their length or form more, some would change less. It has happened, like for example, if we apply force on this pen, its length is not going to change. It can crumble at a point of time, but it will not change. So it is not elastic. Whereas if I have simple rubber band or something like that, its size or length will change. So those goods are elastic. Similar concept is there in our economics also. If we change the prices, there would be some good whose demand will not change much. Its demand would remain constant. Whereas there would be some goods whose demand would change proportional to the change in prices. In some, even change would be much more. I mean, there is slight change in prices, their demand would change drastically. So they have high elasticity. Okay. So this would be the definition of elasticity. So when we write PED, it means price elasticity of demand. Write it down. Price elasticity of demand. It simply means, do remember this convention also. What we are writing at the end, demand. So we would observe the change in demand vis-a-vis change in price. So when I say price elasticity of demand, it means change in demand vis-a-vis or with respect to change in price. So if I write, tell me, income elasticity of demand, what would it mean? Write in the comment section. If I write income elasticity of demand, yes, change in demand with respect to change in income. ठीक है? So elasticity of demand means how much is demand changing, how elastic is demand. And when I'm saying income elasticity means with respect to income. When I am saying price elasticity means with respect to price. Okay. So first we are studying price elasticity of demand. It would be percentage change in quantity or slash you can write percentage change in demand with respect to percentage change in price. Now there could be some goods in which even if we change the price, there would not be any change in quantity demanded. Such good would be called inelastic goods. So first we would look at elastic goods, products for which the quantity demanded or supplied is relatively sensitive to changes in price. These are elastic goods. Inelastic good, products for which the quantity demanded or supplied is relatively insensitive to changes in price. Now, can you provide me some example of elastic goods? पहले elastic example लेते हैं. Give me some example of elastic goods. While tomato, rice, usually rice etc. are kept in inelastic goods category. ठीक है? Mostly this is the food products are kept in, or especially those food products which are not like luxury goods. The normal food product and the food product that we eat on daily basis, like vegetables, rice, wheat. These are example of inelastic good, because even if the price of rice increases, most likely you will keep on demanding rice itself. Okay, petrol, diesel. These are the goods whose demand would remain there. It's not that you will stop going to the school or office. You will still go to the office even if the petrol or diesel prices increases. You cannot stop going that. Whereas what you can stop doing is you can postpone the buying of TV, furniture, AC. It's like if AC prices increases, you can see that पंखा से भी काम चल जाता है. Even cooler is sufficient. ठीक है? और you can come up with excuses like AC क्या बोलते हैं, it destroys our body. ठीक है, once you start living in AC, you cannot live without AC. That's why I'm not buying AC. Probably the reason is you cannot afford AC. If prices come down, probably you will throw the cooler out of your window and you will bring an AC. That's the harsh truth. So these are the goods where a person can decide not to buy if prices increases. These goods would be relatively elastic goods. Okay. And if certain goods are there, for example, tube light hai, bulbs, and these are essential items. So essential items are usually inelastic. Even if government increases the price of electricity, now you cannot live without electricity. So you will buy it irrespective of the price. Even if telecom companies increases the data rate, you cannot live without mobile phone now. So you will buy data even at the higher prices. So there are some goods, food products, these have become essential items and they are relatively inelastic. Everything is relative in this world. It's not that there would be no change in their demand. There would be some change. Okay, few people might stop doing the recharge, but overall the change would be minimal. Whereas in case of these luxury items, the impact is much higher. In case of car, etc., the impact is visible immediately. For example, the sale of these electric scooters, as soon as government reduced subsidy on electric vehicles, their sale simply halved within a month. So their demand is highly elastic, highly sensitive to the prices, because people can simply decide, I will not buy the car, I will not buy the scooter. Okay, or probably one other factor which decides elasticity is availability of substitute. Substitute simply means that, do you have any other option? If you have any other option, then that good would have more elastic demand. And if there is no substitute, that good would mostly be inelastic. Is it clear that availability of substitute would make the demand elastic? And if there is no availability, people have to buy, so the demand would be inelastic. Now let's look at the demand curve. This was our demand curve. At the same time, the demand curve would be something like this also. It could be something like this also. It can be. Practically, usually, we do not find a straight line demand curve. We have something of this kind also. Different slope demand curve, but we would confine ourselves into simple examples. So there could be one situation where there is a horizontal demand curve. There could also be a situation where there is vertical demand curve. You will write vertical demand curve. You will not write the short form. That is the luxury with teacher only. So here we have prices. Here we have quantity. In case of horizontal demand curve, people are willing to buy the goods only at a particular price. If price increases, then also people are not buying. The quantity demanded is 0. If price reduces, then also people are not buying. What would be the elasticity? The price elasticity of demand in case of horizontal demand curve. बताओ. सबसे पहले हम क्या देखेंगे? चेंज इन Q डिवाइडेड बाय change in P वैसे ये परसेंटेज चेंज होगा, परसेंटेज चेंज. सो परसेंटेज चेंज इन क्यू so there is irrespective of the change in q. Change in q is something like this. Maybe some any q, delta q, you can take the example. So delta q, but the change in price would always be 0. Irrespective of the change in q, there is no change in price. So some finite amount divided by 0, it would be infinity. So the price elasticity of demand in case of horizontal demand curve is infinity. We call such good as perfectly elastic good. Let's look at the vertical demand curve. In case of vertical demand curve, the quantity demanded would remain constant irrespective of the change in prices. Even if there is change in price, the quantity demanded is constant. So again, percentage change in quantity is 0. There is some percentage change in price. The price elasticity of demand would be 0. For those who do not have math background, please do not hesitate if you have any doubt. If you do not understand this, you can always ask. Even if other understands, it's their problem. Your problem is that you do not understand. So you have to raise your hand for your problem. No one else is going to ask doubt for your issues. Okay. So for vertical demand curve, the change in quantity is 0. People are asking same quantity irrespective of the price. Whereas there is change in price, some finite amount of change. So price elasticity of demand is 0. We call it perfectly inelastic goods. Perfectly inelastic means there is no change of demand. जैसे these are the items which are perfectly inelastic. There is no change in length even if there is change in force. So similarly, perfectly inelastic good, there is no change in quantity demanded even if there is change in price. Practically, there is no such good which is perfectly inelastic. कोई भी ऐसा सामान नहीं है जिसकी क्वांटिटी कांस्टेंट रहेगी even if there is change in price. So practically speaking, you can write this line. There is no such quantity which is perfectly inelastic, because if something is perfectly inelastic, the supplier will keep on increasing these prices. He will keep the infinite prices because he is assured of the demand, and it never gonna happen. ओके, चलो एक बार मैं सम अप कर देता हूं फिर से. डिमांड कर्व कैन हैव एनी स्लोप. सो हम दो एक्सट्रीम केसेस लेंगे. वी वुड टेक टू एक्सट्रीम केसेस. वन केस वेयर दिस demand curve is horizontal, another case when this demand curve is vertical. Okay, now it is important that we draw the right we follow the right convention of price and q. Okay, if we interchange the price and quantity, the vertical will become horizontal and horizontal will become vertical. Okay. So we will follow the convention which is followed in economics. We will keep prices on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis. So this would be horizontal demand curve. In case of horizontal demand curve, the price remains constant, whereas quantity demanded changes. In other words, what we can say that even a slight change in price would bring the quantity demanded to zero. If price increases, then also quantity demanded is zero. If price reduces, then also quantity demanded is zero. People are buying, you are willing to buy that good only at a particular price. Okay. Now we will put this into our formula. Percentage change in quantity. So there could be some percentage change in quantity, but there is no change in price. Price change is not possible in this demand curve. So in denominator, there would be zero. Anything divided by zero would be infinite. So their elasticity is infinite. These are known as perfectly elastic good. ठीक है. Probably perfectly elastic और perfectly inelastic दोनों के practical example नहीं मिलते हैं. However, the goods like jewelry, gold, high-end cars, they are moreover like tend to be horizontal. Their demand curve tend to be horizontal. ठीक है, but perfectly elastic नहीं हो पाता. ठीक है, it would never happen ना, like people are not willing to buy at any change in prices. They will buy at only particular price. This is never gonna happen. ठीक है. On the other hand, in vertical demand curve, what will happen that irrespective of the change in prices, even if price changes from P0 to P1 or from P1 to P2, the quantity demanded is constant. People are demanding that same quantity irrespective of the change in prices. Okay. For example, imagine a hypothetical scenario where there is only one food product available. We are in Gaza, and in Gaza, Israel has supplied only wheat. Okay. We are not allowed, or probably we do not have any other food item to buy. So irrespective of the price, we will buy wheat, whatever be the price. So in those hypothetical scenario, this is the scenario that people will demand that same quantity irrespective of the prices. So in this scenario, what will happen that there is change in quantity zero irrespective of some change in prices. So zero upon anything, the value would be zero. So the elasticity would be zero. These would be called as perfectly inelastic good. There is no elasticity. Quantity demanded is constant. So these are perfectly inelastic good. Practically, neither a good is perfectly elastic, nor any good could be perfectly inelastic. Practical world, we do not find example of any of them. Now, some of you, Ashish is asking, sir, is there any range of elasticity? Obviously, the elasticity would vary from 0 to infinity. We have seen one end of the spectrum 0, another end of the spectrum is infinity. So elasticity can vary in this range. Okay. Elasticity varies at different price point as well. At this price point, the elasticity could be different. At this price point, the elasticity could be different. So for the same good, the elasticity can vary depending upon the price point as well. Okay, it may not remain constant for a good, that irrespective of the price, the elasticity will not be constant. So elasticity varies along the curve as well. As I have told you, the curve can have various kind of shape, but one thing would be constant is that if it is following the law of demand, the quantity demanded would be inverse proportional to the price. Or the good can turn into a luxury good. it may become a Veblen good, it may become a Giffen good. So a same good can have various dimension depending upon in which price category it is falling. इतनी डिटेल में हमसे नहीं पूछा जाए. What we shall be asked is only the definition of this constant elasticity, vertical definition, vertical demand curve, horizontal demand curve. That's all that we need to understand. ठीक है. So in the next class we shall start from cross elasticity. ठीक है. There is one more thing, just write one line. There are few goods which have elasticity as 1. They are known as, their curve is known as unitary demand curve. For microeconomy, I would not suggest reading any book. Just read whatever I am teaching you. It is going to be more than sufficient because not many questions are asked. So it would not be giving any return on investment. And if you like open the book on, if you open the NCERT book, it will give you a lot of derivation and mathematical formula, and which can further confuse you. So if a good which has the elasticity as 1, that is known as unitary elastic curve. Yes, Muhammad, I told you now that do not follow that NCERT class 12 book because that would be confusing. A lot many goods can fall into that category. Like all the normal goods example that I have given you, they can fall in that category, like normal vegetable, etc. Vegetable usually have they are less elasticity. Electrical appliances, they are mostly around close to unitary elasticity. Okay. But as I told you, like every good, depending upon its price point, it will have varying elasticity. Dairy are usually essential items, so they are also less elastic item. Okay, so it is difficult, or like if you read the book, books, even they do not give example because no example perfectly fits the unitary thing. I will give. As I told you, Charan, that there is no such good which will always follow this unitary elastic. So only the talk or the discussion would happen that these are the goods which are more elastic, these are the goods which are less elastic. And as a concept, we need to remember what is unitary elastic. Okay. So in next class, we shall start with cross elasticity. What I would expect from you is that when you go home, do practice the law of demand curve, excess demand, etc. All those curves that we made without looking into the notebook. If you can draw those curves on your own without looking into the notebook, it means I have succeeded. I have succeeded in implanting those curves into your mind, because those curves should be fitted in your mind in such a way that in exam you don't feel the hesitation of drawing that. Okay. And when you start answering with the help of drawing, your answer will never be wrong. Okay. Now I will share with you. These are various accounts that I maintain, social media accounts. Everyone has the same username, Madhusudan _ Madhusudan _ IIT. So in Telegram also it is same Madhusudan _ IIT. search, you may use @ or something like that. Otherwise, this is the link t.me/madhusudan_IIT. How much GS cover optional economics? Please suggest, sir. As I told you, in optional, rather only around say 25 to 33% of optional is covered in GS. Okay, so that's not too much. But a lot of macroeconomic aspect we cover in the GS, but a lot of theoretical aspect and microeconomy aspect, which is not a part of GS exam. You can also write a mail if you have any doubt or if you have any suggestion, like I should teach something differently, I should cover something, not cover something, any idea that you have or any demand that you have, a specific demand, you can write a mail to me as well. If it is appropriate, I would definitely include it in the class. So that's all. We shall see you again tomorrow, 2 p.m. Tab tak ke liye, goodbye. Take care. If
Thank
you
you,
have
sir.
anything, we can discuss or we can say goodbye. Chalo, thank you.
Thank you, sir.